on a gallows he had built. But before he could speak, the king summoned him in. "Haman," the king said, "what should be done for the man the king delights to honor?" Puffed up with arrogance, Haman imagined the king meant him. He responded with a detailed plan.
"Let the man be clothed in the king's royal robes, which the king himself has worn. Let a royal crown be placed on his head, and let him be led on the king's own horse through the city streets. A noble official should ride before him, proclaiming, 'This is what is done for the man the king delights to honor.'"
The king smiled and said, "Go at once. Do everything you have suggested for Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Do not neglect anything." Haman's face turned pale, his heart pounding with dread. He was forced to carry out the honor he had planned for himself, but instead it was given to his enemy. Humbled and bitter, Haman led Mordecai through the city streets, proclaiming his honor just as he had described. When he returned home, his spirit was crushed. He told his wife and friends everything that had happened, his anger and humiliation clear. They warned him, "If Mordecai is of Jewish origin, you will not stand against him. You will surely come to ruin." And so Haman's plot to destroy the Jews grew darker, but his pride had already been wounded by the king's unexpected favor toward Mordecai. At the second banquet Esther had prepared, the king and Haman took their seats once again beside the queen. King Xerxes looked at her intently and asked once more, "What is your request, Queen Esther? Speak, for your wish shall be granted, even to half the kingdom." With courage and conviction, Esther spoke her heart.
"If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my petition, and spare my people. This is my request."
The king's expression shifted, a flash of shock crossing his face. Esther continued,
"For we have been sold, distressed, I and my people, to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. Had we merely been sold as slaves and servants, I would have kept silent, for no such distress would justify troubling the king."
The king's face darkened in shock and anger. He demanded, "Who is he, and where is the man who would dare do such a thing?" Esther pointed to Haman, saying,
"The adversary and enemy is this wicked man."
Enraged beyond measure, King Xerxes rose and left the banquet hall to cool his fury. Meanwhile, Haman was terrified. Seeing the king's anger and realizing his plot had been exposed, he rushed to beg Esther for mercy. In desperation, he fell on the couch where Esther was reclining. He clung to her, pleading for his life. At that moment, King Xerxes returned suddenly. He saw Haman clinging to Esther and shouted, "Will he even assault the queen while I am in the house?" The king's guards seized Haman, and he was swiftly led away and hanged on the very gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. Thus, the plans of the wicked were overturned in a single moment, and justice was served. After Haman was hanged, King Xerxes gave his entire estate to Queen Esther. She, in turn, appointed Mordecai over it. The king also removed his signet ring, once given to Haman, and placed it on Mordecai's hand, giving him royal authority. But the danger wasn't over. Though Haman was dead, his decree remained law. In Persia, a royal edict sealed with the king's ring could not be revoked, not even by the king himself. The day of destruction against the Jews still loomed on the calendar, the 13th day of the 12th month. So Esther once again approached the king. This time not for her life, but for the life of her people.
"How can I bear to see disaster fall on my people?"
she pleaded. King Xerxes granted permission for a new decree to be written, one that would counter the first. Mordecai quickly summoned the royal scribes and wrote in the king's name, "The Jews in every city have the right to assemble and defend themselves. They may destroy anyone who attacks them and take their enemies' goods if needed." This decree was sent out swiftly to all 127 provinces in every language, sealed with the king's ring. As it spread, hope was revived. Where there had been mourning, now there was light and gladness. On the appointed day, the Jews stood united across the empire. With royal protection and newfound courage, they rose up and defeated their enemies. In Susa, 800 attackers were struck down, including Haman's 10 sons, notorious men who had stood by their father's wicked plans, who were later hanged at Esther's request. Esther also asked for one more day of defense in Susa, and the king granted it. Across the empire, 75,000 enemies were defeated. Yet again, the Jews took no plunder. Their fight was for survival, not gain. It was not a day of greed. It was a day of justice. When the battle was over, the people rested, and what began as a day of dread became a day of victory and celebration. To remember their deliverance, the Jews established a yearly celebration called Purim, named after the lots Haman had cast to plan their destruction, now a symbol of God's reversal. Every year on the 14th and 15th of Adar, they would feast, rejoice, send gifts to one another, and give generously to the poor. A day that was once marked for death became a day of life. Mordecai was honored throughout the empire, clothed in royal blue and white, second only to King Xerxes. But it wasn't his power that made him great. It was his heart. He sought the good of his people and spoke peace and truth to all. And though God's name is never mentioned in the entire book of Esther, his fingerprints are everywhere. In every twist, every risk, every rescue. What was meant for destruction, God used for salvation. The story of Esther reminds us, even when God seems silent, he is never absent. Even when the odds are against us, he is already at work. Perhaps you too are where you are for such a time as this, not by accident, not unseen, but chosen, positioned, and called. Because the God who reversed the fate of a nation still writes stories of redemption today, and yours could be next.
If you haven't subscribed yet, please don't forget to do so. It really helps us continue providing you with amazing videos like this.